Welcome back to Unique News, your trusted source for global news and sharp analysis on the largest stories shaping our world today. In tonight's feature, we spotlight an unfolding legal and political battle in Portland, Oregon, a story that brings into sharp focus critical questions about federal authority, states' rights, and America's ever-contentious landscape of protest and civil unrest. Troops from California and Texas, mobilized by presidential order, preparing to deploy in response to protests in Portland. But just as the boots begin to hit the ground, a federal judge steps in, halting the operation. What's behind this dramatic judicial intervention? What does this reveal about the tensions between federal power and state sovereignty? And how did Portland become a flashpoint in America's larger political crisis? Let's break down the facts and explore the stakes. Make sure to like and subscribe to stay updated on stories ranging from geopolitics to local crises with global reverberations. This weekend, legal wheels turned quickly in Oregon. At the center of the storm was U.S. District Judge Karin Immergut, who convened an emergency hearing on an issue snowballing in both scope and controversy: the president's attempt to deploy National Guard troops from California and Texas into Portland. Judge Immergut's decision was clear and forceful. She granted a second temporary restraining order that blocked these troops' deployment, ruling that the administration's moves were in direct contravention of a previous court order barring the use of the Oregon National Guard for protest response within Portland. In effect, the judge stopped federal orders from sending out-of-state military forces to the city, a move that made headlines and intensified debate over federal authority versus state control. Oregon Governor Kottek responded swiftly and decisively. In a statement moments before the judge's latest ruling, Kottek condemned President Trump's escalation, calling it dangerous, un-American misuse of states, National Guard members, and hard-earned taxpayer dollars. The governor sided with his counterparts in Illinois and other states, calling on Texas Governor Greg Abbott to reject federal coordination and refuse to support transferring troops to Oregon. This collective pushback from state leadership signals a broader resistance to what many view as federal overreach in a situation already fraught with tension and uncertainty. Despite the mounting controversy, troops from the California National Guard had already begun arriving on Oregon soil. By Saturday night, roughly 101 California Guard members, federalized in June, landed at Camp Witham in Happy Valley just outside Portland. Another 99 were reportedly on the way, highlighting the speed and scale of the president's efforts to deploy reinforcements. Oregon State Attorney General Don Rayfield moved fast to respond, adding California to the suit against the Trump administration. The state's message was unambiguous: any deployment, whether Oregonian or Californian, runs afoul of both legal precedent and the latest temporary restraining order. President Trump's remarks and political rhetoric. President Trump, doubling down on his position, publicly condemned the situation in Portland, describing the city as burning to the ground and swarmed with insurrectionists and Antifa. Trump decried local politicians for allegedly ignoring the crisis, claiming they were afraid for their lives and failing to truthfully report the city's condition. But state and city leaders pushed back hard. Governor Kottek, Portland's Mayor Wilson, and others insisted the president's claims were unconnected to the reality on the ground, describing the intervention as unnecessary and inflammatory. They emphasized there was no justification for federalized troops, and local government did not want or need federal intervention. The government shut down complicating another layer to an already complex situation. Representative Susan Bonamici spoke out during a town hall in Beaverton. She pointed out that with the federal government shut down, National Guard troops could be sent to Oregon without receiving pay. Number 1, we don't need them. Number 2, we don't want them. Number 3, it's not their job. And number 4, they're being asked to do this without even getting paid. This financial pressure underscores the human impact of political and legal maneuvers. Men and women potentially working without compensation in uncertain, possibly hostile conditions. The scope of the judge's order. Scope of Judge Immergut's restraining order was broad and definitive. It not only blocks National Guard troops from California and Texas, but prevents the deployment of troops from any other state in the U.S., at least for the next 2 weeks, as legal teams continue their battle in the courts. These troops remain sidelined, highlighting the checks and balances built into America's system of governance. The ICE facility, protests and federal response with tension building outside Portland's ICE facility. Events on the ground remain charged. The Trump administration points to unrest in this area as justification for sending troops. The Portland FBI has made 147 felony arrests since June, with 5 in the previous 24 hours alone. Yet, Portland's mayor has announced plans to file a civil rights lawsuit against federal police, DHS, and ICE officers for their actions during the protests. Reports of federal officers firing pepper, balls, and tear gas, deploying snipers on rooftops, and using impact munitions against crowds have fueled accusations that authorities are antagonizing otherwise peaceful demonstrators. City officials argue these tactics aim to inflame tensions instead of maintaining public safety. Broader implications: states' rights versus federal power. This episode in Portland raises enduring questions about the balance of power in American democracy. Can the federal government override state objections in deploying troops for domestic unrest? Does the president's authority extend to using state National Guard units for purposes that governors oppose? And how does judicial oversight help safeguard constitutional boundaries? These are not only legal riddles, they're foundational issues at the heart of the United States federal system. For American viewers and a global audience alike, the Portland standoff is an instructive case study in how democratic checks and balances operate in moments of crisis. What comes next? As the temporary restraining order stretches through the next 2 weeks, all eyes are on the courts and the streets of Portland Will the legal challenge succeed and halt further federal intervention? Will local officials gain more control over the fate of their city? And how will the national political climate shift as a result of this showdown? Stay tuned for more in-depth coverage as this story develops. This is Unique News, dissecting the biggest stories from Portland to the world so you stay informed, alert, and ahead of the curve. If you found this report insightful, hit subscribe and share with friends who care about law, democracy, and the future of American civil society. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think about this federal versus state battle? Should troops ever be federalized against a state's wishes? We want to hear your perspective. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.